Hi everybody, and welcome to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. And I posted a video earlier today talking about one of my kits, and somebody saw one of the tools that I use and asked about it. So I thought I've been wanting to do this for a little while for a couple of different specific people. So I thought I would get on here today and talk a little bit about some of the tools that I have that maybe are kind of unique, that you don't see very often, or that have been modified to make them work a little bit better, you know, for modeling purposes. Okay, the first tool I'm going to talk about was actually because of a question by a subscriber named Nico Stavropoulos. I hope I didn't mess that up, but I think it's Nico Stavropoulos. And he asked about what I use to hold the wheels on my on the T34 I'm building in my last video. And basically it's really simple. I'm not sure what they're called elsewhere, but here in the States these are called generally called alligator clips because they kind of look like an alligator with teeth. And I just take one and I either glue in, or sometimes friction fit will work just fine. Just a cheap piece of dowel from the local home improvement center. You can buy one of these in 3 or 4 foot long for $1-ish. Very, very cheap. I think it's 1/4 inch, might be, I don't know, 3/16, something like that, but it's really cheap. And I just use my handy dandy cutter here. This is not one I use on plastic anymore. I use it for whatever else I want to cut, and you can cut these very easily and just stick them in there. These are also inexpensive at the local hardware store. You can buy a pack of 10 for, you know, a few bucks, and I'm sure online you could probably find them for a bunch. Now, these are available as specific model tools, but the price per each, it's a little bit cheaper if you just buy the stuff locally and make them yourself. You save yourself some shipping, and they're a little bit cheaper, and you can make as many as you want. But they work really well, and they're good for all kinds of different things. I use them, just these themselves, to hold figures. You know, I can hold them by the foot to work on them. I'll hold any kind, tons of different kinds of parts. And like on this one here, all I did was just clamp it around the inner portion of the hub, and then you can paint away and then stick them in a piece of styrofoam, or in a, to me, a turntable to let them dry. So that's one of them. The other tool I like to use on model kits, and this is hobby, not necessarily just for models, and I actually got these from my dad years ago, these large ones. He was using them to hold wood stuff together, wood projects together. So you can use them for just about anything. And they're just clamps, friction type clamps that work for just about anything. You can use them for holding fuselage together while it's drying. You can use it for holding barrels, you know, while they dry, if it's a 2-piece barrel. I mean, there's just tons of uses, and they come in 2 sizes, this large and the small. The small being 4 inches long, with the large being 8 inches long. Now, what I do to mine to make them work a little bit better is, you can see these rubber pads right here. I cut them to fit, and they're self-adhesive, and they stick right on the clamping surfaces here. You could do more of it if you want, but I find that this is all that's necessary. And these can be bought at, you know, dollar stores, hardware stores, whatever. Packages of them, they're usually round. They come in different sizes, and I just cut them to fit and stick them on there. And they're just they're kind of they're not real soft, but they're pretty soft rubber. And the nice thing about it is not only does it keep the plastic from being marred from clamping it together, but it also provides extra grip. Because sometimes if I find I'm gluing especially two surfaces together, just like this fuselage for instance, if say the bottom lined up well but the top didn't, You know, I do one side at a time, and then I can put pressure. I can vary the pressure and the angle to get the two segments to line up properly. You know, I can, you know, if it's up like this, you know, I can give it a squeeze on this side over here and it'll pull it down into place. And they come in two sizes, so they are very handy. So that one was for another one of my subscribers, online pals, HG. So that's some good stuff right there. Then we have just the regular old spring clamps like these, and I do the same thing. I put the rubber onto the jaws to help, because especially if it's at an angle, this hard plastic can, when you clamp it, like say if you were trying to clamp something, maybe not this severe, but like even a wing surface, sometimes, whoops, or whatever, if there's angles involved, sometimes it'll, if it's just the bare plastic here on the bare plastic there, it can slide off, just as this is the tension makes it slide. So this rubber helps hold it in place. So that's the other type of clamp I have. Then let's see, another tool I like, and these are homemade, and you can buy them. There's some brands are called glue loopers, but I made my own. And basically you take a sewing needle and you cut the end off. I cut this one at an angle for some things and this one straight for some things. And then what you can do is using CA glue, super glue, cyanoacrylate, whatever it's called, the thin, all you do is just touch this to, like, for instance, I could put a dab on here. If I'm gluing some photo etch or whatever, I just touch this and capillary action will draw it into this little notch right there. And then the part you are gluing, you just barely touch it to the edge of the part. Capillary action will draw the CA glue out of this little notch here onto the part without trying to squirt it out of the tip of the bottle or whatever and making a big giant mess. So those are pretty handy, easy to make. If you got some sewing needles, just cut the ends off and stick them on a little handle of some kind. This one's taped, this one's actually melted in there, and voila, you have some super glue tools. Another tool that I use, and I use this for a lot of different things, is blue tack. It comes in gray, comes in blue. Some brands, I guess, especially if it's blue, they will leach out oils if you put them on, you know, plastic. But I haven't had a problem with this particular brand, so I think I lucked out, and I've got a big old chunk of it here, and it lasts forever. But I use it for a number of different things. You can use it for masking. You can pull pieces off and you know, roll it out and use it to make a border to mask things. But one of the things I like to use it for is to hold parts. You just put a little bit on the end of a toothpick / cocktail stick, and then you can take a part that you want to paint, and voila. And there are tons of different uses. I could have done the same thing with this here, but I wanted the longer reach of this handle, but you can do the same thing like that. So that's pretty handy. That's another one of those things that's not modeling specific, but can be used for a lot of different things in relation to modeling. So blue tacks, it comes in gray, comes in blue. Now some people use a product called Silly Putty. I'm sure they have it in other countries as well, but here it's sold as a kind of as a toy, and it's stretchy and generally a pale flesh color. That one will leave some oils if you're not careful, and I have heard it will also peel paint if you leave it too long. So that's why I chose to use this type of stuff here, the blue tack. So let's see what else we got. Now the next thing I use in conjunction with something else. So I have this right here, which is this is a hobby specific tool, and it is used for, as you can see, cutting circles. And this is really handy, and I'm going to be using it here pretty soon. And I've talked about it before on earlier videos, but I'm going to be using it to mask these wheels. And basically what you do is you take some wide tape, or at least tape wide enough for what you're wanting to do. In this case, it's some 2-inch Frog brand masking tape that's used for, that painters use. And using a caliper, or you can just use a, a scale like this. And I use millimeters because it's a little finer. But he basically, what I want to do is I want to make a mask so I can, after I paint these outside rubber portions of these wheels with NATO black to represent rubber, I want to mask that off so I can paint the inside the color of the vehicle. So what I do is I take the caliper and I use it to measure the rim size. And I'm not going to be real precise because I'm not wanting to take forever on this, but it measures out about 20 millimeters. So what I would do then, using my scale, I'd measure out 10 millimeters. Whoops. Sometimes it takes a couple of times to get the circle exactly the way you want. Tighten that up, and it has this nice titanium blade here, nice sharp point there. Just put it on here. Cut that. Just want to cut this a little bit closer. And then simply peel this up, and you have a template. Again, I'm not going to take the time to really line this all up, but sometimes it might take a couple of times to get the circle size exactly the way you want, but then you have a nice mask instead of having to use the old circle template, which, as you can see, I've used before. And this works, but it's a little bit harder to hold the part in place and spray it. I'd rather for me, I like to take the time, and once you get your circle size done, you just go down your tape, cutting your template, and there you go. And you can also use it in reverse if you were to paint the wheels first, depending on the type of wheel it is. If you were to paint the wheel first and want to do the rubber afterwards, you just use the center part and do the same thing and just block it off. So again, you have to make sure you get your circle size correct. It may take a couple tries, but once you do, you got some nice masks. You can mask all your wheels at once. So what I'll end up with here after a while is all of my wheels will have one of these masks on it after I paint the rubber part. Then I can put the mask on, then I can paint all my wheels, paint the inside part, and not have to worry about masking it. So that is what that is for. These can be purchased online. FlexiFile sells them, as well as a few other places. These can be at any hardware store, and they make nice digital ones as well, but this one works great for what I do. But it's pretty handy. I like to take the time to make all the masks, mask off the wheels, paint them all at once. And I have one more item I want to talk about. A lot of people know about it, but some people actually don't, and that's this Badger. This one is Badger Airbrush Company brand. And what it is, it's a simple motor with a steering device on here that works great for any kind of paints other than the type that come in these little bottles here. For Tamiya, any other jar type paints, Humbrol, whatever, these work great. You just take the cap off of your jar, stick the end inside, turn it on, makes your cement up really well, or your paint up really well. You just stick it, the tip, into a bowl of water, spin it in there without slinging water everywhere, hopefully, and clean it off. Works really great. Now, there's some people have modified these. They'll either get an extra one of these, or they'll make an extra one, and instead of having this type of tip on it, some people have epoxied a small piece of styrene to act as a paddle that will actually fit down inside the neck of a bottle like this. So, very handy tool, very inexpensive. There are off brands other than Badger, and they work just as well. And they just run off of AA batteries. I don't know what these type of batteries are called in other parts of the world, but they're AA batteries. They're these small type here. 1.5 volt LR6 is another numerical designation for them. Alphanumeric, I guess, but works really well. So this is definitely something that I would recommend if you have trouble mixing your paint. So that was just a real quick look at some of the tools, specifically for a couple of people that have asked about some of the tools I've used. And thanks, Nico, for the question that prompted me to do this little video here. And I hope that answers your question. And you know, hope you see that it's real easy to make your own, and you know, makes it a little easier to paint parts for your models. So anyway, that's it from Plastic Models for a Regular Dude. Thanks for joining me. If you have any more questions or comments, post them down below in the comments section, and I'll try and answer some more. Maybe I'll have to do another informative video showing some more of the tools and stuff. So anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.